for the invitation, and I want to apologize for my informal dressing, but I'm still waiting my luggage that is somewhere in the world, I don't know where. So let's start. I want to give you a practical example of what an open source project is, and it is a very specific open source project about imaging, so a vertical project. In the last presentation, you saw what a horizontal project is, VISTA project, so an hospital information system, but now you will see a vertical project, so a project for imaging. So let's go back in 1991. In the bioengineering and ICT group in Trieste, was a very big group of people, of researchers, and the main topic of research was around PACS system. PACS means Picture Archiving and Communication System. So systems for archiving, managing, and distributing images, radiological images, in the hospital. And why we started in 1991? Because in Trieste there was the first installation of a commercial PACS in Europe. So you can imagine that the experience we get from this installation is very big. And this PACS solution was very innovative, but we find out that the close communication solution was not enough for an integration and for communication, for sharing images, and for integration with other systems. In 1995, we started the DPACS project, so a project we developing our own PACS system in order to have a new solution and an open source solution for distributing images in the hospital. And in 1997, we installed this system in the Catinara Hospital, so the General Hospital of Trieste, managing all the images of the hospital. The DPACS project and the DPACS system was very good, I mean, ready for the market. And we try to offer it to the market. But there was some gaps for spreading it in the market. From the market point of view, there is no trust in academic services. Usually the academic solutions are quite good, but not the academic services. Services means installation, maintenance, support, and training, and so on. And the market in the radiology area is full of big vendors. So it's very close, it's very difficult to enter. And there is a need from the market point of view of a long-term investment. And usually the academic approach is not for a long-term investment. The market prefers to use big vendors because they assure the customer to have a long-term system running in the hospital. So we needed a new way of proposing the software for increasing the interest from the market about the software. And the idea we had in those years was the open approach. Open approach is a concept that is wider than the open source approach. Because there are 4 points for an open approach. Obviously, open source, but open source is not enough. Open standard, so open protocols for communication, interoperability, and I will explain you what interoperability is, and independence. Independency from databases, independence from operating systems, independence from hardware architecture. Just briefly, yesterday in one of the presentations, you saw that open source can be a business, and because free doesn't mean free sandwich, but means free knowledge. And there are a lot of services that you can sell to the market, like installation, training, maintenance, customization of the code, assistance, migration, consulting. So the open approach, the open source approach, can be a business in the healthcare. Just for explaining better another point of the 4 I showed you before, is what is interoperability? That is very important to understand what interoperability is. Use standard for communication, so basically the same language, you can exchange data between systems. But it's difficult to reach the complete plug and play. So I have one system from one vendor, another system from another vendor. I want to plug them immediately to start working. It's very difficult because there are different interpretations of the standard. In healthcare, and especially in the imaging sector, there are two big standards that are DICOM for imaging and HL7 for administrative data. And those two standards are very wide. So you can interpret them in a different way, and there are different dialects for this kind of standards. So you need additional rules for using. And so you need interoperability project or interoperability initiative like IHE, Integrating the Healthcare Enterprise. That is the most famous initiative for the interoperability in healthcare. It is a completely international initiative, IHE, for fostering the interoperability. So it's a solution for linking all the vendors together in order to connect and to exchange immediately information in the healthcare sector. You can see that the initiative that was born in 1998 is basically all over the world. So there are a lot of three main areas in which the initiative is active: Europe, Asia, and North America. And the initiative started in radiology because radiology is the most complex environment inside the hospital for data, because you can imagine that images are very big, so you have tons and tons of data you have to exchange between systems. And through years, the initiative expanded to other kind of sectors: cardiology, laboratory, oncology, eye care, and so on. So this initiative actually covers most of the needs in the hospitals, giving integration profiles. So what is an integration profile? Integration profile is a way for solving a problem inside the hospital. Just an example. In radiology, I have different steps in my workflow. So I have an administrative system in which I have to create orders, to create the patient, and then I have to send the order to the modalities. Then I have to create images, and then I have to report those kind of images. And in all of these steps, usually I have to fill in the patient name in each step. And this is a problem for interoperability, because you can create errors in the process. So this is a problem. This is an integration problem. And IHE gives you a way of solving, so a way of using standard in order to solve this integration problem. So let's take a look about the benefits of the open approach. There could be the real benefits: high availability of updates and new feature, because you have a community. So there are the development process is very fast. There is an ease of integration because you have open standards and you use interoperability rules. You can choose the best system for each purposes. So you can choose different vendors in your departments. There is no perpetual link to the vendors. There is a long-term approach, for sure, because the system is open. So if the company that offers you services disappears from the market, you can choose another company. Transparency, low cost, and what I call the collaborative assistance. So there is a mutual assistance and collaboration in assistance of the system. So usually you need you have a very strong IT staff in the hospital. you can collaborate with him in innovating and in fostering the system in the hospital. But the market is not yet ready for accept this kind of benefits, because when you talk about open source, usually they are not convinced about having an open source stack inside the hospital and open source systems, because usually they need, obviously, they need stable and secure system, and the idea of open source is not so stable and secure. So for covering this gap, you have to have a lot of pilot projects and sites in which the software is running to demonstrate the stability and the security of the system. The market needs professional services, and usually behind an open source project, it's difficult to find out a very strong team that offers you professional services. So you have to create this core team, and you need to have affiliates, other companies in different countries that can offer the same services all over the world. And the market needs guarantees. And because it's a critical environment, usually the software is very critical. You can do direct diagnosis on the software, using the software. So you need certification. And certification is a key point for the open source in the healthcare, because software is considered as a medical device. So you need a secure software for patient safety. And you need to cover it with CE mark or FDA mark that are a way of certifying the software and a way of selling this software and offering this software to the hospital. But certify a software is very difficult, because for the hardware, for a standard medical device like an ECG, is a certification means electrical testing. So you test electrical dispersion, you test the behavior of the components with electrical stress. But for the code development process, it's very difficult to gain the certification, because you cannot test the software. And software is very various. There are a lot of type of software, so it's difficult to have a unique way of testing it. And so you need some standard way of developing software, like ISO 13485. That is an ISO standard and represents the requirements for the management of system and design in developing a medical device, a medical software device. And it's difficult to combine an open source approach with this kind of software, because you can imagine that you need very strict rules about how to develop the software, a quality process for developing the software. And usually the open source approach is not so strict. You have a very wide developer community, so you have to take care about all the developer branches. Just for let you know that in one of the bigger guru of the open source, that is Eric Raymond, described in a very good way the two ways of developing open source software. That is the cathedral model and the bazaar model. In the cathedral model, you have roles well defined and no user feedback, because the people are creating the software in isolation, and smart people creating the software completely alone, so without user feedbacks. And the bazaar model, in which there are different agendas and approaches, in which the roles are not well defined and there is a great user feedbacks. So if you want to approach the health market with an open source software, you have to combine these two approaches in order to have roles well defined, in order to have a central control, have user feedbacks, but different approaches. And this is not easy. So keeping all these things in mind, and we, in 2004 and 2006, we created the O3 Consortium project. The O3 Consortium project aims to offer open solution for the health market, covering the three aspects of the e-health care. So hospital, territory, and home. This is why there is the number 3 in the name. We created the communities, so the user community for having feedback, developers community, and service provider community, so other companies that can offer services to foreign markets all over the world. And in 2008, we created the O3 Enterprise Company with the goal of offering the services, because offering services through the university, through a university project, through a university staff is very difficult. And so the business model with those two entities, university, O3 Consortium, and the company, O3 Enterprise, was the one I'm showing in the presentation. So O3 Consortium, the university part, is offering research and development, the control of developer and user community, and sales through conferences and through collaboration with other universities, with other research groups. And O3 Enterprise is offering services, so professional services in the market, development, for instance, customization, personalization on the code, and the control of the service provider community. In 2008, in the company, we had a new shareholder, a very big group, TBS Group, that is the European leader for clinical engineering services. So basically there are affiliates of this group all over the world, even in Saudi Arabia. And this group increased our sales activity and our presence in the market, because we used the sales activity of the group in order to propose our software all around the world. And with our software, we propose to the market a complete solution for managing images. So radiology, cardiology, endoscopy images, digital pathology, and so on. So a complete management of all the images you can have inside the hospital, and even video clips. And complete means covering the three levels of where are used. So imaging departments, the hospital side, so the unique repository of images of the hospital that integrates local repository of images, and extra hospital, so outside hospital, in which you have to sharing images. I have a best practice for this kind of solution, and in Piemonte region in Italy, so it's a big region, 6 million inhabitants in the northwest part of Italy, we install our system integrating TBS group products and O3 products, so a complete open source stack in order to manage all the images of the region. So there are more or less 20 or 25 hospitals in the region, and we are integrating those hospitals in order to have a central backup, a central repository of the images for disaster recovery purposes, for distribute the images across the hospitals, so no matter in which hospital the patient goes, but the radiologist, or the specialist in general, can assess the images, can assess all the images of the patient, so all the history of the patient, and for teleradiology and second opinion purposes. Okay, this is the technical view of the solution, but I don't want to explain the solution. Just to remind you that it is a complete open source stack. So it was very easy to integrate with different software, because we integrate different PAC system, and we integrated different hospital information system. And we are doing the same thing in another region of Italy, that is the Friuli-Venezia Giulia region, so in the northeast part of Italy. And we have 1 million exams per year and 300 workstations, so huge numbers. The first stage of the project, so 2008-2011, was about consolidation. Okay. And so stability of the solution, we had to change the market approach versus the academic approach versus market approach, creating networks, and increasing the number of customers and users. And the second stage, from now till 2013, we want to focus the attention about innovation, so new modules, new tools, partnership, so new products. We need other research groups, university groups, in order to increase the developer community, in order to develop further the software and have increased the offer. And we need to internationalize the software. So we have to expand our services and in foreign markets. So we need the local companies or agents in order to propose the software and to manage the installation. So thank you for your attention, and if you have questions, I'm here.
Thank you, Andrea.